So it is 2 years since I packed up Kiss Me Deadly business and put lots of things in boxes. And when I got those boxes, one of them was from the warehouse, and it was what we refer to as the Doom box. And now I need to sort it out. So, partly, I am offering a box of things that might be useful to any of you who are doing fashion or contour fashion degrees or similar, or for some reason need a store of lingerie bits. I'm not going to ask too many questions. Um, and partly I thought I'd whiz through some of the things that have gone wrong over the years that end up in a Doom box, so that you can see, like, kind of some of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, some of the things that go horribly wrong. Some of them might be funny, I don't know, but I thought it was worth a try. Um, most of the stuff that is in the Doom boxes are actually perfect garments that were returned by customers and for some reason have something wrong with them. Usually something that would be resolved by washing. Usually there's nothing disgusting in there. It's literally just, folks, I cannot emphasize this enough, when you try on tight lingerie, put something on underneath it first, because otherwise you're going to end up with bits of dead skin all over it, and we're going to have an awkward conversation with you about the fact that there's like white flaky stuff everywhere. And then it goes in the Doom box, and then it's been sitting in the Doom box ever since. And that's the Doom box. That, a bunch of stockings. People take stockings out of boxes, we can't put them back in. They go in the Doom box. There's loads of hosiery in there. There's loads of hosiery we use like once in a shoot, and then we're a bit like, I don't know what to do with this. It gets a bit weird if we try and sell it. And there's some like components and various other things. So if you think that would be useful, I'm going to put it on eBay, and I can't post it. It's too much stuff. So you will need to somehow get to London, but I'll put it in a decent box. Anyway, here's some of the stuff. When I was going through it, I discovered that there was a bag of things that years ago my staff had put to one side because they thought it would make a possibly interesting video about like things that go wrong. So, first thing, this garment is perfectly made. It looks fine. It looked fine in the packet. Everything was fine. I have at some point removed the suspenders from it, and I think that's probably because we were just perpetually short of detachable suspenders. I don't know about you, but if I've got a garment that has detachable suspenders on it, I'm going to lose them. So, yeah, we ended up keeping like a huge box of them for years. The problem with this garment was, so when you make a design, you usually like develop a pattern, and that will go through some fairly extensive testing, usually the first time. And then the next time you do it, you're just a bit like, great, this has all gone fine, we've done this before, so please just do all the things you did last time, just in a different colour. Or like maybe you tweak something about the design, but usually you make it in like a different colour, slightly different fabrics, change the lace, that kind of thing. It makes it a lot easier, it makes it a lot cheaper, and it usually means you only need one sample, which makes the factory a lot happier. Factories really don't like doing new things. So this went all the way through. We did sample, we did photographs, we started selling it, we sold it online. It went all the way through quality control and everything, and it turned up. We start sending it out to customers, and we immediately start getting returns, and we're like, what have we done? What have we done? What have we done? What have we done? We made the original black version with stretch fabric, and this version with non-stretch fabric, or like, I think it might be like 1% lycra, 2% lycra, maybe. The original was like 5%. 5% is magic, 10% will fit most people. So yeah, beautifully made garment, absolutely fine, needs a steam. But it's in the Doom box because it will only fit people with the exact waist measurement that it has. Alright, second one. So, garments that you make, garments that you buy that are like mass produced, which is like, for us, that can be anything from like 12 per size up to like 500 of a total style. But like, if you're buying from somewhere like Primark or Victoria's Secret or something, they're making like 10 million of them, and you can imagine that what happens is that those garments are just very, very quickly, they run down a production line. Each person has got one job, just one job. They're just seeming like this bit. It's very fast, very, very fast. And so that means that they are not paying conscious attention. It's all done kind of automatically. And sometimes that means that things go wrong. So this bikini was from another brand, my favourite people at Playful Promises. And this was one that escaped quality control because technically it is sewn properly. But it should have hip frills on both sides. And instead, whoever was on hip frills that day just got handed it in the wrong direction. And so they sewed on, instead of a beautifully sewn on hip frill, they sewed a upside down crotch frill on. It's perfect in all other respects. If you're like a keen enthusiast, you could take the crotch frills off and it'd be a fine bikini bottom. But I don't have time or energy, and also I'm not that size anymore. This is probably the fault that gives me the most nightmares. So if you are familiar with the brand, you probably know about the Vargas corset. I've been making them for years. I've got like 6 left. They're on eBay. Sorry. It was based on a vintage design. It was one of those things where we literally just sent a vintage picture to the factory and they got it, and it almost all just went fine. And then over the years we made lots of different variations of them, and mostly plain black sold because that's just what sells. This is the old version that used to have a bra sized piece attached. Bra sized pieces make things harder to sell, so we eventually took that out. It was made with lace. These looked fine. They looked fine. They were exactly the same as the ones we made before it. They were exactly the same as the ones we made after it. It was all the same lace. At some point, some lace got into the mix that was from the same supplier, that was the same pattern, and yet, I hope you can see, the elastane started to decay, and so the elastic just started to like retract and come away from the seams. This was colloquially known in the warehouse as the hairy Vargas problem. We could not tell which ones it affected. It wasn't obvious in the packet. It wasn't obvious when they were made. Sometimes it didn't show up for a while. I'm pretty certain it was something that happened over time. And so, like, what do? Like, we can't... How do you know which ones are affected? So I'm really sorry if you ended up with a hairy Vargas. We did try and rectify it anywhere we found it, but it was a nightmare problem that just honestly didn't show up until quite a long time later. The next 2 of these are just poor design choices. Is how I would describe them. So Playful Promises do lots and lots of gifting, and the gifting is amazing. I love the gifting. For years I had like loads of their little like knickknacks and boxes and tins and packaging and bits and bobs that went with everything. I'm actually wearing, like, the boss of Playful Promises has gone off and started a new brand now called Artemis Muse, which does these robes, and they're so beautiful. And I have a horrible feeling I'm going to end up getting loads of robes as well now. Just, you know, they're nice. But back in the day, like, oh god, like 15 years ago, they did a whole range of chromatic knickers. They were beautiful for putting out on display. They were pretty good online, you know, so it was like red, orange, yellow, da 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 da. There were 12 of them. They were based on horoscope signs, so they were also really nice for buying for friends. I think a lot of bridesmaids had them around this time. You know, and other little party things, birthday things and stuff. The only problem was, one of the horoscope signs, it's a perfectly made knicker. It's a beautiful little knicker. It's just, you know, a standard bikini brief. It's got a little jewel on the front. The embroidery is done correctly. It's just no one wants cancer pants. And particularly no one wants cancer pants in the colour that is like the big charity colour in the UK for cancer stuff. So, yeah, just a poor design choice, really. Perfect in the Doom box. Next time they came out, they had Cancerian on instead, so that got fixed. This was a poor design choice on my part. Happily, it did not make it through to production. At some point, my sanity kicked in. We started doing swimwear. Swimwear turns out to be manufactured in the same places that you manufacture safety gear, including like stab-proof vests and stuff. Apparently, the techniques are similar. At some point, I'll go and ask them about that. We hadn't done much swimwear before, and I was like a bit like, I don't know, I'm not super confident about how you translate a femme fatale imagery into swimwear. Like, And so they said they would sample a whole bunch of things if we wanted to just use the same pattern but try different fabrics. And I don't know what possessed me, but I went for pink. Like, why? Why? This would never have sold. Thank God I didn't do it. Anyway, firstly, like, it's just a too cheerful print for us. Secondly, it doesn't match up on the bikini top, which would have driven me mental. And thirdly, like, they look like kiddies swimwear. They look like the big pants. It's just. But if you like this, you are always correct in matters of taste. So if you like this, that's fine. It's perfect. It's a perfect sample. Um, it's just a poor design choice for the brand aesthetic. Final thing from the Doom box that was put aside for me as like one of the things that would be worth talking about. So we used to have problems when we ordered suspender belts from Chinese factories because suspender belts are not part of their like lexicon of garments that they wear. So they would quite often turn up with like weird straps, very long straps, very short straps, straps in strange places. I got very good at sewing straps on or altering them. I have very limited sewing skills, but I could just about make them look good enough to like pass muster at a trade show or hold together for a photo shoot, and then we'd have to get them changed for production. This somehow again got all the way through, like we'd made these before in black. This somehow got all the way through like sampling, production sampling, all of that kind of stuff. So you do like a sample for photo shoots and stuff beforehand and trade shows and selling it, and then you take a sample off the production run, and then somebody also QCs. Obviously I was never well enough to go to China, so somebody else did the QCing. This somehow got all the way through that and got all the way into England in the whole batch of them. I think we had 500 of them, and every single one of them had plastic clips, which we don't use, and I would never recommend for anything other than bedroom wear. They're not. If you have plastic clips and plastic stockings, or even natural stockings, you're just going to end up with your stockings around your ankles. So we had to get every single one of them re-sewn, and we had to recall every single one of them that we'd sent out. It took a while, but we got through it, and I think all the ones after that were absolutely fine. I hope this has been useful, and if you have any need for like a giant bag full of lingerie bits and ready-made garments and components and fabric related stuff, please do hop over. And if you're looking for like the last bits of Kiss Me Deadly that I'm working my way through and samples and stuff, then they are slowly going up on eBay, and occasionally some bits are going on Vinted. So hopefully see you there.